All right, this is a Jeff Beck signature Strat, the first generation. Super cool guitar that I've always wanted to try. I was late to the Jeff Beck party. I didn't discover his music until I was like 30, which is crazy because I love music, and I also love that era of British blues, Clapton and Andy Summers, Police, and I never got into Jeff Beck stuff, but I'm glad I did, just before he died actually. And I got a Jeff Beck Artist model Strat, not this one, the current one, with the noiseless pickups, and it was a super cool guitar. But I heard a lot and I read a lot about this model, and I really wanted to pick one up and try it, and I'm glad I did. And I wanted to share with you some of the things about this model that make it kind of special. So starting from the top here, this is a 93, going by the serial number, which is not always accurate, but close enough. This model is basically a 90s Strat Plus, or actually a Strat Ultra, because of the HSS configuration here that Fender was doing in the late 80s and early 90s. There's lots of stories about how the process went with Jeff Beck. Around that time, he was kind of in a boom of his career, and he was talking with like Ibanez and Charvel, and he had a bunch of little signature models all over the place. But eventually, he wound up with Fender, and eventually, this is the model that came out, which, for all intents and purposes, it's just a Strat Ultra. There's not a whole lot different, but I'll explain to you what the differences are. So what you get with this one is there's no string tree on the headstock, right? The strings are just go straight from the nut to the tuners. That's because you have, instead of a regular nut that's slotted and cut like bone, plastic, graphite, whatever, you have an LSR roller nut, which is basically, for each string, there are 2 ball bearings, and the string rests on those 2 ball bearings, and it's frictionless. And it is a really, really cool design, and it stays in tune really well. Also aided by the fact that these come also with locking tuners. The early ones have Spurzels, like this one does here, right? You can see these Spurzel locking. The later ones have I think they are, I can't remember what the brand is, but they have the bigger, much heftier, thick locking mechanism. I don't think it's Goto, but there in the early years, you have a mix between these 2 components being kind of mixed up. There's the LSR roller nut, and then there's the Wilkinson roller nut, which is the one that he actually uses on the guitar that he actually plays, which is much bigger, and it's an over-under design, a little bit different, and then has the other tuners, locking tuners. Other than that, you have a rosewood fretboard, and I believe jumbo frets on this one. The neck is probably the most distinguishing feature for this model, the Jeff Beck signature, because the Strat Pluses, Strat Ultras also have roller nuts and locking tuners, etc. But the Jeff Beck model has this huge no caster kind of neck with it's a really round and really thick. It's almost an inch thick, with virtually no taper from the 1st fret to the 12th fret. It's just solid. It doesn't really get thinner or thicker as you move up. It's just a huge neck and really comfortable. I like big necks. My favorite guitar is my Alan Holdsworth model, which is the same thing. Huge, fat, vintage style neck. This is the most distinguishing factor you'll have between a Strat Plus, Strat Ultra, and the Jeff Beck. Moving down to the body, you've got a alder body on the Jeff Beck model in a solid finish. This one is vintage white, which over the years looks more, it turns kind of to a more of a cream, not yellow, but not white for sure. This one is really good shape for how old it is. You can actually see here, I removed the back plate to show you the original color versus the aging color. This guitar has been kept indoors for a lot of its life. It's seen a few wedding gigs in its career, but it hasn't been outside a whole lot. So there isn't too much fading, but you can see the difference there between the original color and the current color. For the pickups, you have lace sensor golds with the Jeff Beck model. The other Strat Pluses, Strat Ultras have a combination of reds and blues, gold, silver, whatever. But the Jeff Beck model has all golds, not hot gold, just regular gold, lace sensors. It's a 5-way switch. So you have the classic Strat layout, positions 1 to 5. This one, on the Jeff Beck model, there's a switch right here, a little push button that turns the dually. This is called a dually. It puts it in either single coil mode or humbucker mode. What's unique about the dualies for lace sensors is they're not, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, they're not real humbuckers. They're essentially just 2 single coils wired together, series and parallel, and you can basically switch on and off between the inner, I believe it's the inner, or maybe it's the outer, I can't remember. But with this, it's a good thing and a bad thing, depending on what you want. When you flip between your middle, which is just your middle pickup, to your 4 position or 2 position, you're gonna have, depending on where you are here, you're going to have either 2 singles or the humbucker and the single middle. And then when you flip back on the bridge position, you'll have whatever mode you're in, the single or the humbucker. Me personally, I prefer the other layout where when you're in the 4 position, you're gonna have 2 singles, like a real Strat, and when you're on the 5, you have the humbucker, right? But again, this is a feature of this model that you kind of have the choice, and it's easy enough with just the push button here. The other unique feature about the electronics is that, and I believe this is the same for the Strat Pluses and the Strat Ultras, you have the traditional Strat layout, volume, tone, tone. The volume is master, controls everything. The first tone controls only the neck pickup, and it's a regular tone pot, just 0 to 10 as normal, right? For the middle and the dually, this is controlled by the last tone pot, which is not a normal tone pot. This is a TBX, treble bass expander pot. Probably one of Fender's coolest designs. They do a lot of stuff with like grease bucket, treble cuts, G&L, also Leo Fender, his latest company, later company, did a lot of high and low control with the pots, all passive, nothing active. This is also passive. What's unique here is that from 1 to 5, it's a normal tone control. It's like 0 to 10 on a regular tone control. From 5 to 10, it essentially boosts the highs and the bass while leaving the mids where they are, and it gives you kind of an exaggerated scooped sound, or like an extra sparkle, extra depth kind of thing. It's really cool. But what is unique, and again, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, that this controls only the middle and the dually, whereas on the Strat Pluses and Strat Ultras, if I'm not mistaken, the TBX, there's 2 TBX controls instead of just 1. I'm not sure, but for this model, it's interesting because you get a wider variety of tones by doing that. You have a neck pickup which is truly independent, and if you're a Strat player, you're probably you live on the neck pickup mostly, and then you go between that sound and your in-between sounds, right? For that quack, that extra sparkle. And then with this one, because you have a humbucker, you have that really thick power heavy sound in the bridge. So with this layout, you have kind of everything. You have that neck pickup sound, that Strat neck pickup sound. You have the positions 2 and 4 sounds. You have the TBX to exaggerate that sparkle, that scoop sound, and you have a humbucker which you can turn on and off. So this design really does cover everything, and it's super cool. The last note about the electronics are that the pickups are lace sensors. If you don't know much about lace sensors, back in the 90s and even the 80s, these were like they were the thing. They were on all the top of the line models for Fender. Everyone was raving about them. You saw a lot of artists like Eric Clapton were using these pickups because they're not noiseless, but they're really quiet, and they're true single coils. They're designed differently than normal single coils. They have a magnet. They have actually these little flexible, cheap, to be honest, weak magnets that surround the coil in the middle. So it's a different design, and they're a lot weaker for sure. They don't have a lot of output, at least these models don't anyway. But they sound they're very quiet, they're very clean, and I don't want to say hi-fi, but they sound a lot more processed, but in a good way. They really give you a unique sound. They're very different from single coils and humbuckers, so they're worth trying. I've never had lace sensors before this, but I'm glad I got to try with this one, because this is a cool design. Then you have the bridge, which here, nothing too special. This is the standard modern Fender 2-point tremolo. So you have two points here instead of the 6 screws, and these are knife edge divots in these screws. So you have a very low friction bridge, and again, nothing too crazy, too special, but it works great. And in conjunction with the LSR and the locking tuners, you have pretty much a Floyd Rose without the locking components. Very cool, very modern design. And that's pretty much it for this one. The newer model is similar. It has locking tuners. It has a roller nut. The newer model, meaning the 2nd generation Jeff Beck Strat from 2001, I believe, onward. This one went from 1991 to 1999 or 2000. I can't remember exactly, but it's very similar. The differences are that the newer one has a slightly thinner neck. It's not as big as this one. It's still thick, but it's not a no-caster neck like this one. It has a cutaway here on the neck joint, and it has the 3 hot noiseless pickups instead of the HSS, and no TBX. If I had to pick, which I did, this model's cooler. It sounds more like the sounds he was using in the late 80s, early 90s. You get more of that from this one. Lastly, I'll add that Jeff Beck, the guitars he actually plays, I think of all the Fender artists or endorsers, the guitar he actually uses is the furthest from what Fender actually put out. His Strat uses the Wilkinson roller. He doesn't use the hot noiseless pickups that come stock in his model. He uses a custom wound set by John Schur, and yeah, he's kind of famous for being pretty finicky, and he just kind of does whatever he wants. But still, I think, I mean, again, I like the 80s and 90s Jeff Beck albums the most, Flash, all the way up to Who Else? And I feel like a lot of those tones are easier to get with this one. It could just be because this is a very versatile instrument and it has a lot of tonal possibilities. So it could just be that. Was he actually using lace sensor model on those albums? Who knows, you know? But if you're looking for a Jeff Beck Strat, you'll find the new ones all over the place. These are hard to find, and the prices went up a lot after he died. I was lucky and got this just before he passed away, so I didn't pay through the nose. But they're still pretty expensive, and they come in 3 colors: white, surf green, and purple. And the purple one is the hardest one to find. People love that one, and they go for a premium just because of the color. So yeah, that's it. I hope that was a useful video. I know it's a lot of talking. I'm gonna add another video later about doing the sounds compared to a different Strat. But if you're looking for a Jeff Beck Artist model, I would suggest going for the older one. That goes from 91 to about 2000, more or less. So with that, thanks, and have a good one. Enjoy.